George, what's up, man? You left some leaves burning out here.
Yeah, I just came in just for a second.
Come on, man. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. You could torch the whole neighborhood.
It's a good point. There's smoky.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Good evening, friends of the Cleveland Cultural Gardens and fellow Clevelanders. And welcome to what should be the greatest night in the history, the 100-year history of this great cultural treasure here in the city of Cleveland. We have a wonderful evening ahead to celebrate together the riches of the last 100 years and looking expectantly to what the Cleveland Cultural Gardens can continue to mean to all of us as a community. We're honored to have as our keynote speaker this evening a gentleman deeply entrenched in the Cleveland community, Chris Ronayne. Chris has been the president of University Circle for over 10 years now, and I think you know that with his wife, Natalie, and their family, they have authentic roots in our community, and they have dedicated themselves to the recognition, preservation, and to the nurturing of our great community assets, including the gardens long into our future. We'll hear from some of the people instrumental in the cultivation of the Cleveland Cultural Gardens, both literally and figuratively. We'll enjoy the music of my dear friend and collaborator, Councilman Kevin Conwell. Conwell, where'd you go? It's over there. It's time for dinner. Never misses the dinner bell. Thanks, Kevin, and his Footprints Band. We have a great silent auction, which we're going to keep alive until about 9:30 this evening. Lots of wonderful silent auction items. On your tag, there's a number, a bid number. Feel free to go out there at any time and see who may have one-upped you on a bid. Please be generous. All the proceeds go to the benefit of the Cultural Gardens. We'll enjoy a gourmet dinner, each other's company, all here recognizing, preserving, and celebrating something that is unique, not only in our city, our state, and our nation, but actually in the world. I want to thank the committee for graciously inviting me to be the guy that keeps things moving along. You all know how it is when you get a bunch of ethnics together, and I'm not just talking about the Eastern Europeans. You get them together and people proud of their heritage and their culture, things can kind of stretch out. That's why there is no vodka on the table this evening. That wouldn't be a bad idea. You're right. We'll keep things at a comfortable tempo and have times to really reflect on the astounding cultural icon that we have right down the road in the Cultural Gardens, and in all those people who for 100 years, about 100 years, as the Federation itself, have worked so hard to nurture it. This is a personal pleasure for me, too. I was raised not too many blocks from the gardens, and some of my earliest childhood memories, including rides down East Boulevard, and of course, as it was known then, Liberty Boulevard, in my father's 1951 Pontiac. Now, the unusual part of that memory is at the times that we took that route, my brother would roll down the window, stick his head out, and yell when we went under one of the big bridges just to hear it echo back. I still repeat that family tradition, even though it may be a rather uncultural thing to do in the Cultural Gardens, but it's kind of a 60-year family tradition. In the 60s, when I was in high school, I spent a lot of time at that ballpark and baseball field right behind the Ukrainian Gardens. And during the years I spent as a news reporter, I had the happy job on many, many occasions to report on developments in the garden and even take part and host some of those dedications and events, including the Indian gardens, the Slovenians, the Ukrainians, and others, and I'm grateful for that. Those were enriching experiences, and it was a gift to share them with many of you who have been part of the Cultural Gardens for so many years. We're at about 30 gardens and counting, and we're happy to report that nearly every one has an active representative here this evening. That's a testament to the lasting vitality of our treasure. Obviously, many hands went into the making of this evening's celebration, and without some of those same hands, the vibrant, growing, and increasingly relevant state of the Cleveland Cultural Gardens today would not have been possible. Two of those very capable and hardworking hands belong to the current president of the foundation, Sheila Murphy Crawford. Who doubles, by the way, as the head of the Murphy Irish Dancers, winners of the 2015 World Championship. It doesn't get any better than that, and the Cultural Gardens could not be in more capable hands than Sheila's and those of her dedicated committee. It's a tremendous legacy to live up to, isn't it? 100 years. But Sheila and her friends are equal to the responsibility, and it's my pleasure to welcome her to the stage. Sheila?
Thank you, Dick. Well, welcome to all of you. I'm so grateful that you came to help us celebrate this 100th anniversary of the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. I would like to do a toast, and so I would like, when we finally come to that point where we're clinking glasses, if each of you would say your toast in your own native expression, whatever your heritage is, and it'll be a truly international toast, to say the least. Well, keep it clean, okay? All right. I would also like you to know and meet the executive board of the Cleveland Cultural Garden Federation. Without everybody cooperating and working as hard as they can, we would not be successful. So I would like to ask the executive board if they would bring their glasses and come up to the front of the stage so that we can do this toast together. Please, the executive board. The Cleveland Cultural Gardens Federation is made up totally of volunteers. And so to have an organization 100 years old that has been led by volunteers from the very beginning is quite an accomplishment. And so tonight we would like to toast. And first of all, we'd like to toast to the founders who began 100 years ago this month by establishing the Shakespeare Garden, which eventually became the British Garden. And also we toast to the memory of all the individuals who worked and maintained the gardens decade after decade. Through their hard work and persistence and dedication, the gardens survived. Secondly, we'd like to toast to the current volunteers, to all of you who came tonight because you love the Cultural Gardens, because you have a passion for it, like those of us up here who are your officers and work at all the meetings day after day. We particularly want to thank Mayor Jackson and his administration for their tremendous support, and Director Michael Cox, who always helps us with all of our issues. We want to thank Cleveland City Council, especially with Kevin Conwell, for all of your support over the years, and University Circle, Inc., particularly, too. All of you who have joined us tonight because you understand the value of our cultural gardens. You understand their beauty, their uniqueness, and the importance of our motto, peace through mutual understanding. And we need that more today than ever. And then lastly, we'd like to toast to the future, to the next generation, to the next 100 years. And each of you here needs to inspire your youth, your young, your children, to value the cultural gardens, to bring them there for experiences so that they will cherish what we cherish. and they will nurture the gardens as they grow. And through your inspiration, they will prevail the next 100 years. So if you will raise your glass, and together we will toast the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. Shlanta. And then I know you know Dick Russ, but we are so happy that he could be here tonight and be part of this special occasion. Dick has been a long, active member from the media, involved in the Cleveland community, in its cultural events and civic affairs. And he has worked over 40 years in television stations in Cleveland. So I want you to give him a warm welcome as he proceeds with the rest of the program. Dick Russ. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sheila, and thank you, sir. And friends of the Cleveland Cultural Gardens, welcome back. As our celebration of the 100th anniversary continues, we're honored this evening by the presence of several dignitaries whom we'd like to recognize. Just yesterday, some of us who are here this evening had the pleasure of being with Mayor Frank Jackson as he received the International Service Award from the Rotary Club of Cleveland. We had a real good discussion about the international status of Cleveland and how the diverse nature of our community helps us to leverage our region around the world. And so here we are a little more than 24 hours later. Mayor, welcome back amongst us once again. We're honored that you're able to be with us. He had to run, but when hasn't he had to run? Dennis Kucinich, our former mayor, was here for a little bit this evening and paid his respects to the event honoring the 100th anniversary of the Cultural Gardens. So we thank former Mayor Kucinich for that. This is great. I could stay up here with you all night. We also have the privilege of welcoming this evening the Consul General of Ireland, Orla McBreen, to our fair city. She has traveled from Chicago once again to be with us here in Cleveland. Your Excellency, welcome. Also with us is our Lithuanian Honorary Consul, Ingrida Bublis. Labas vakaras, Ingridis. There's a Lithuanian table. Cleveland has a large, involved, and very effective consular corps. They couldn't all be with us here this evening, but that's a great asset in establishing our city and our region as a real player on the world stage. I wanted also to welcome, ran into some of our other dignitaries this evening. State Senator Tom Patton is with us. Former Councilman Joe Simperman, now head of Global Cleveland. Former Councilman Martin Sweeney's here. Brian Cummins. Of course, Kevin Conwell, your drummer, Councilman, and County Councilwoman Yvonne Conwell. If I didn't see you, come and grab me before the evening is over, and I'll make sure that your name is mentioned, or just shout it out right now. Donna Brady, where are you, Donna Brady? That is a little-known Albanian folk song. Just invented. As you would expect, many expressions of congratulations and good wishes have been coming in over the past few days and weeks in recognition of the 100th anniversary of the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. We're going to take a minute or two to share with you just who has taken the time to recognize this occasion and to add their voice to ours, and to facilitate that, welcome up to the stage one of the co-founders of ClevelandPeople.com, a gent who has become an indispensable part of our Cleveland community, Dan Hansen.
All right, we do have a lot of proclamations and honors because this is a big event, 100 years Cleveland Cultural Gardens. Really quickly, we have from State Senator Tom Patton. Thank you. We'll get these all to Sheila, and then they'll be in the office, and they'll then be there for the archives. So thank you, Senator Patton. Mayor Jackson and the City of Cleveland, thank you for the proclamation. This is from Governor John Kasich and Lieutenant Governor Mary Taylor. So we have that. Chris, would you show us the first? We have two quick videos to show, about a minute and a half each.
Hi, I'm U.S. Senator Rob Portman. I really wish I could be with you all for this gala, but I join you in spirit in celebrating the centennial of the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. I love the gardens. I love to walk through them and visit them. They're truly an Ohio treasure, and they symbolize what's best in Ohio and what's best in America, and that's our rich diversity, bound by our national unity. We're really unique in the world in that way. Our national seal in Latin says, of course, e pluribus unum, out of many, one. America was the first nation in the world, founded not on some kind of ethnic heritage, but upon what is universal, held in common by all people. Our founders built a foundation of natural rights, that all people of every time and place and of every background have certain rights, including life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. This foundation has enabled us to welcome people of every race, every language, and every creed. The Cultural Gardens, 29 nationality gardens along East Boulevard and along Martin Luther King Boulevard, as well as what I understand is going to be 17 new gardens to come, help us all as Ohioans to celebrate one another and promote mutual understanding through these beautiful gardens. The Cultural Gardens also hold up some of the greatest figures in our history from all over the world who have made the world a better place. People like Gandhi and Mother Teresa, great artists like J.S. Bach and Frederick Chopin, poets, philosophers, teachers. That's a historical part of the gardens that I love. Ohio, and Cleveland in particular, has been so enriched by people of diverse origins and diverse backgrounds. And Cleveland continues to be enriched by that today. The Cleveland Cultural Gardens help us to appreciate one another's, each of our contributions to Ohio, and to bring about more peace through mutual understanding. Happy Centennial.
I'm Sherrod Brown. It's a privilege to serve as a United States Senator. Thanks to Sheila Murphy Crawford, everyone with the Cleveland Cultural Gardens Federation for your incredible work to preserve these spaces so special to Cleveland. That makes another thing that makes our great city unique. My thanks also to Dan Hansen and Cleveland People for your efforts to promote our incredible diverse cultural heritage that is reflected in these gardens. The gardens are one of the great treasures of our great city. Cleveland's getting a lot of national attention this year, as we should, with the Republican convention coming this summer. I welcome them to our city. I'm thrilled they're coming. It'll be a boost for our local economy. It will showcase all that our city has to offer. Everyone in this room knows that Cleveland is so much more than an industrial city. We're the only city in the world with a statue of Gandhi on a street named for Martin Luther King Jr. In the early 1900s, Midwestern cities saw a cultural explosion. Our cities were prospering. Government and business leaders alike sought to harness that new wealth to build livable, world-class metropolises. Museums and gardens were established across the Midwest, symbols that these cities had arrived. These cultural institutions were status symbols, the sports arenas of the early 20th century. Think what happened in the first quarter of the century in Greater Cleveland with the museums, with the beginning of the City Club, all the incredible things that happened, including in April of 1916, the first garden, then known as the Shakespeare Garden, was established. Members of the British royal family came to our city to attend the ceremony. 100 years, 29 gardens later, the cultural gardens thrive and grow. You continue to be a symbol to the world that Cleveland is world-class, a world-class multicultural city. I look forward to seeing how the gardens grow over the next century, and I encourage everyone to pay a visit to one of Cleveland's great treasures. Thank you so much.
So we've got the city covered with Mayor Jackson. We've got the state covered with Senator Patton. We've got the U.S. Senate with Senator Brown and Senator Portman. We've got the state level with Governor Kasich. So for about 6 months as we're working on Centennial, we wanted to, get some other action here. And you don't know how close we were to having a very special guest here tonight. So that didn't work out because he's a busy guy, and it was about a week. Next week he might have been able to make it, but he did send us a letter. And Chris, if you would pull up that PDF and kind of zoom in, we're going to give the letter to Sheila. It's kind of lost in the tracking. And let me read to you from the White House. America's story has always been defined by our people, women and men who come from different backgrounds but look toward a shared destiny. With roots all over the globe, every one of them embodies our country's founding premise. Out of many, we are one. In marking the centennial of your gardens, each as inspired as the cultural mosaic that is our nation, we bear witness to the way beauty springs from the seeds of inclusion, and we are reminded of the power our common humanity has to transcend our differences. As you come together to celebrate the tolerance and acceptance you have grown in Cleveland, I wish you all the best. Barack Obama.
Thanks, Dan. We're pleased to have tonight as our keynote speaker a man deeply involved in the civic life of Northeast Ohio for many, many years. Chris Ronayne has, for about the last 10 years, served as president of University Circle Incorporated. That's the nonprofit body which helps to guide the development and the direction and the advocacy of this most key area of Cleveland and the region. Chris worked at City Hall as a planning director and chief development officer. He was chief of staff as well. He and his wife, Natalie, who is the vice president of the Botanical Gardens and the Holden Arboretum, they live here in Cleveland with their children, completely committed to the city. So to help us in a wonderful way celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Cleveland Cultural Gardens, a warm welcome for our keynote speaker, please, Chris Ronayne.
Well, good evening, everybody. First of all, this night's already turned out a fun night. I want to say it's great to be a part of what I think is the greatest Cleveland family dinner here tonight. Yeah. And there's been a lot of thank yous have gone around, but in that regard with the family dinner, let's give our serving team a round of applause for both a great dinner and great service. Thank you, guys. I feel at home. All right, well, I want to say there's been a lot of elected officials that have just been honored. I know that former Council President Sweeney's still out there, so I'm going to say this while you're out there, Marty. If you're listening, Marty Sweeney, Eddie Crawford, if you haven't already explained to the Consul General from Ireland how you annexed a part of the Doan Brook to the River Shannon, please explain. All right, I also want to just make one more remark, and that's to Mayor Jackson. Number one, the man is everywhere. He spends his days at City Hall. He spends his weekends with us. 24/7, this man is out in our community. I walked in tonight and I said to my friend Mayor Jackson, who I've now known over 15 years and had the pleasure of working at City Hall with him, I said, Mayor, it's fairly daunting to try to give a speech with you in the audience tonight. And he said, Chris, I just appreciate a night off where I can sit down and just have some fun. So to Mayor Jackson. All right, well, this is great. I get a break once in a while. All right, I want to say also, speaking of music, they will be back, but Kevin Conwell, wherever you are, where are you, Kevin, Councilman Conwell? We want to say to Footprints, if you didn't know the band name, you can catch them live because we just booked a gig August 10th at Wade Oval Wednesdays with Footprints. All right, how many of you have been to that? All right. Well, now, all right, I'm going to get serious, and I'm thank you, sir, thank you. All right, how about to our accompaniment? All right, look, you look around. There are so many people to thank tonight, but and I lost him. I want to give a special thank to Dick Russ. Where are you, Dick? Where'd you go? There he is, in the back. Listen, I have not been to a CCGF event where you have not been. He is always here. Our moderator, MC, Dick Russ, please. Well, again, a family dinner we are having tonight on this centennial anniversary of the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. And for a moment, out of the fun, to have a little moment of seriousness, and it's perhaps Senator Brown either stole my line or we were comparing notes, but I do want to talk for a minute about the history of this garden. And it is an honor to be here tonight. On behalf of University Circle, Inc., I want to thank Sheila and all the board at CCGF for asking us to be here and asking me to speak. I spend every day traveling through the Cleveland Cultural Gardens, and often I spend a moment reflecting in the gardens and often reflect back on a line that I've used many times, but it's fitting given the first garden in the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. What is the city but the people? That was a famous line posed by none other than the Bard, William Shakespeare, in the play Coriolanus. And the people of Rome echoed, "True, the people are the city." It was true 400 years ago in Roman times, and it's just as true today. What is a city but its people? It's a question I've drawn upon many times in professional life and city planning in Cleveland, and I think all of the public officials out here tonight get it. It's why you do the work. It's what a city's all about. No place is it more gloriously manifested than in your gardens, the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. So I'm delighted to be here for your Centennial Gala, and really honored to speak by the Federation. I want to thank Sheila Crawford again and Johnny Wu, who wooed me into this night, because I want to also thank my wife. We were on our way to Texas for a family wedding, for a rehearsal dinner tonight, but we're going tomorrow. This party is important, but Natalie, the former Cleveland Parks director, I want to thank you for changing our flight, and we'll be in Texas tomorrow morning, but it's a party we weren't going to miss, so to Natalie Ronayne as well. If I could play, I would play. All right, back to the Bard. On the line, what is a city but its people? It's also a reminder that the dedication of the Shakespeare Garden, as you've heard, in Rockefeller Park is where it all began, for the Cleveland Cultural Gardens in 1916. And tonight we celebrate that first garden, dedication, and all that succeeded it. And so much has succeeded that first garden, and so much still will succeed it in our city's future. On April 14th, 1916, 300 years after the death of Shakespeare, Cleveland dedicated its first cultural garden, and that is the Shakespeare Garden, which was first a part of the plot then known as Poets' Corner, along Liberty Boulevard and the Rockefeller Parkway, and the first garden to be planted as a celebration of culture of national literary figures. Present for the dedication of the Shakespearean Garden in 1916 was Shakespearean actress Julia Marlowe, who read a selection from Shakespeare's Winter Tale. And in the crowd, as a lot of you historians of the garden know, was a Cleveland journalist, Leo Weidenthal, who had a seed of an idea that would grow into one of our city's greatest civic ideas. And Mayor, we know there are many great civic ideas in this wonderful city. I think we know the Cleveland Cultural Gardens is one of the greatest civic ideas in the history of our city. But it was Weidenthal's plan to develop a strand of cultural gardens that would celebrate Cleveland's people as a mosaic of ethnic diversity. So thank goodness he was at that first garden dedication and had that kernel of an idea. In 1916, Cleveland was the center of the progressive movement. Progressive Cleveland Mayor Newton D. Baker was asked to join the cabinet of President Woodrow Wilson. This July 4th will mark the centennial anniversary of the day Cleveland City Hall opened its doors at 601 Lakeside Avenue, where the great architect J. Milton Dyer designed our beautiful seat of government as a part of the original Burnham Group plan. As the great civic idea for the cultural gardens grew, other great civic ideas sprouted up alongside it. The City Club of Cleveland in 1912, the Cleveland Foundation in 1914, Caramoo House in 1915, the Cleveland Playhouse and the Cleveland Museum of Art, also founded the same year as the Gardens in 1916. Just 1 year later, the Cleveland Metro Parks was founded Tonight, actually, we have the chairwoman of the Metro Parks, Debbie Berry, and right behind her, her colleague Dan Moore from the Metro Parks. Let's give them a round of applause as we've done with our public officials. The point of all these is look what you've stewarded over the years. Found in the 19 teens and here today in the 20 teens. And in 1918, the Cleveland Orchestra was established. But that's what was going on at the top of the 20th century. And now in the 21st century, because of you, we've sustained it. 1916 was also an important year for several national institutions, like the Boy Scouts of America, the National Park Service, and at a recent stop to the Grand Canyon with my family last week, we took note of the National Park's 2016 centennial signs. It sounded familiar. They promoted the National Park's mission to preserve nature and culture. I immediately thought of the Cleveland Cultural Gardens that took shape the same year as the National Park Service. We both celebrate anniversaries, centennials, NPS and CCGF. They both preserve nature and culture. Cleveland was a look-to place in 1916, as we are again today. In the last presidential election cycle, David Gregory from Meet the Press visited Cleveland. It's that time of year, folks, right? Equal time. They're here. As one of his tour guides, I had the good fortune to take him around University Circle, but I asked him the question along the way. I had kind of a planned route for him, and it didn't include the gardens, and it needed to include the gardens, but he gave me a prompt. Along the way, I asked him, "Why are you here?" And he gave a great answer, and it wasn't scripted. He said, "I'm here because I wanted to see where the real America is." During an election cycle, he came out to see where the real America is. And it was a prompt for me to say to him, well, let's go see it. Let's see the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. We meandered down the hill through the gardens, and the man from Meet the Press was in awe. As we meandered through the gardens, you could see his eyes lighting up, garden by garden. The experience signaled to him that he had found, I think, the real America. A literal de Tocqueville experience, built on your volunteer efforts and your celebration of each other. People have to visit Cleveland to be reminded of its incredible cultural offerings. Many of these cultural institutions are here tonight. Just some of my neighbors I want to call out because they bought a table to be here tonight. But the Cleveland Museum of Natural History, Evelyn Gates, thank you for being here tonight. I'll probably name too many to do this, but Case Western Reserve, thank you for being here tonight. Judson Manor, neighbors, thank you for being here tonight. Cleveland Botanical Garden, thank you for being here tonight. And there are more. These are just a few folks who are with you as neighbors. Your partnership in University Circle demonstrates how connected we are from the parks of Wade Park to Rockefeller Park to Gordon Park, and the cultural gardens that represent an extraordinary gateway between the Circle and to the lake, and to our neighborhoods. We have the Opportunity Corridor, we have the Euclid Corridor. Perhaps we should memorialize this area as the Cultural Corridor. Just an idea for the night, for the next century ahead. Working together, there's so much we can do. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that the association between the Cleveland Cultural Gardens and University Circle just got stronger, as CCGF has become a member institution of University Circle, Inc. Thank you. Thank you. Joining 40 member institutions from the Cleveland Museum of Art to Lakeview Cemetery. I have to say, when people ask, and it's hard to choose among favorites, right? They're all favorites, but they say to us, where should you visit when you get that prompt? I was just talking to my friend George Havens about this tonight. Where are your favorite hotspots? Constantly tell people, Lakeview Cemetery, Cultural Gardens. It's quite literally our outdoor museums. Anyways, thank you for joining this wonderful club. I want to say some of my staff are here, and the chair also of our UCI Advancement Committee, Vicki Brower, are here tonight. Thank you, UCI team, for being here tonight. Because we work together tirelessly with CCGF from UCI. On a personal note, I want to tell you, by way of the action that CCGF has taken this week, you just all became my bosses. So, with over 40 institutions in the Circle and more than 2,000 board members by association, I'm thrilled to work for you in partnership. And in partnership with our council members, and particularly in the corridor of Glenville, Huff, St. Clair, And for the big questions and the big asks, I go back to Mayor Jackson and Director Cox for the big asks. So anyways, it's a partnership with all of you, but thanks for joining our association. And I'm glad to announce that tonight. Well, the other D.C. insider, since it is the season, that I wanted to bring up wasn't quite President Obama, but close to him. A few years back, we had another visit from Secretary Sean Donovan. At the time, he was the HUD Secretary for President Obama. As he and I had, two Secret Service agents driving around, and I don't know if the mayor's felt this before, but it's an awkward experience. I guess I was a threat because he had two. But we drove together, just the two of us and his two Secret Service agents. And again, you want to see America? I'd already queued that up with David Gregory. Let's go down the hill and see America. So we did. And the Secretary took note of the lower boulevard, but he kept peering up to the upper boulevard, to the upper ridge. And he said, "What's up there?" Well, I said, "Let's go up there." The upper boulevard ended up being his favorite part, just a personal opinion for him. He was enamored by the relationship of the historic homes of Glenville's East Boulevard and the elegance of the gardens across the street. It was a really moving experience to have a D.C. official truly engaged in the experience of place. Anyways, upper boulevard, lower boulevard, he was simply blown away always. He asked who did this. It was a simple question. I mentioned you guys. It's a group of people, committed volunteers, are doing this. This is how it happens. Partnerships abound, but it's the stewards of the garden who show up on a Saturday afternoon to tend to their garden in honor of their community. In addition to my role as president of UCI, I've had the privilege of serving the last 11 years as chairman of the Holden Parks Trust. I thank another mayor. It was good to see Mayor Kucinich here tonight, and of course Mayor Jackson. Also want to give thanks to Mayor Voinovich. He set up the Holden Parks Trust, and during his administration, he created an endowment that helped make capital improvements that we work very closely with Director Cox and his team and all of the cultural gardens on those improvements. Together, we've made over $7 million of investment and support since that trust's inception in 1988. So in absentia, will you please give George Voinovich a round of applause? It's a partnership. We at Holden Parks Trust have been a proud partner of the Cleveland Cultural Gardens, and tonight I'm pleased to make a second announcement. In addition to CCGF becoming a member institution to UCI, tonight we announced the Holden Parks Trust Board also took an action this past week. It pledged $100,000 toward your planned Centennial Plaza. I want to also, in that name, give thanks back to the city because they advocated for us to make that commitment. And Sheila and Johnny, you never stopped with your advocacy. So $100,000 for the Centennial Plaza. The plaza will be a place of celebration. I see the plans. Let's look at them later tonight. It will be a gathering place in the garden. Some of the Holden Parks board members are here tonight, and I want to thank them for that investment because it was the biggest investment you've ever made. I want to thank also our consultant, Chris Bongiorno, who works with all of you. He got engaged to his wife, Naomi, right in the Cleveland Cultural Gardens, right down the hill from his grandmother's apartment at Judson. Chris, thank you. I find myself continuing to refer the word partnership between Holden Parks Trust, the City of Cleveland, CCGF, and UCI. Now, we have some more fundraising to do for the Centennial Plaza, but we hope it's a healthy head start. Sheila, where did you go? I don't have to come up yet. Well, should we? Let's do it. I'll bring it home if I want to. Natalie knows that would stay in my pocket on my closet. Okay, so, Sheila, thank you. In addition to that $100,000 grant, the letter that I just gave you references a $10,000 gift for fabrication and installation of the Centennial banners marking this important year. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and we worked a lot with both Sheila and Johnny on that. Altogether, the board, they also will be working with the city and CCGF on the installation of a flag and pole this June that marks the centennial anniversary with the CCGF logo right next to proudly the state of Ohio and the city of Cleveland. Altogether, the board and the trust directed over $112,000 this week to the centennial. So again, thank you, Holden Parks Trust. As our gardens grow, what do they project? What do they say about the city of Cleveland? What do they say about Clevelanders? For me, the word welcoming comes to mind. Most of our growth as a city pre-1950 was attributed to the growth of immigrants, as reflected in our cultural gardens. In some respect, like a spring bud on a branch, each new garden represents the growth of our city's family tree. A century ago, our city had a knack for welcoming people. Let's hope we're developing that knack again. I want to congratulate the Board of Global Cleveland on the hire of new director, Joe Simperman. Cleveland Council members, you know that was a good hire. I'm sorry you lost him, but community gained him again. Joe. He knows when we welcome people, we grow. At the turn of the last century, our city was 1/3 foreign-born. A century later, that number had fallen into the single digits at less than 5%. As immigrant flow declined, so did the population of our city. You put aside for a minute, and let's do that, national immigration policy debates that are hard even to call debates these days. They haven't been all too cordial. If we rise above the rhetoric and get to pure fact, it's an unassailable proposition by way of our own Cleveland testimony that we grow as a community when we attract immigrants. Where is the city growing today? We're one neighborhood in the city in University Circle and proud of it, but we're a prime example. We are in double digits in percent population foreign-born. As we've grown immigrants, we've grown the population back in the census tracts represented in University Circle. To University Circle, and I know to all the city of Cleveland, immigrants matter. UCI's message on the back of your program tonight, in the second to last page, is a welcoming message. It's intentional. With, again, the city's blessing, we are going to, on every pole banner in University Circle, on every wallscape we can do, we're going to welcome all summer long and all year long those coming to Cleveland with a message that we are an international city of many languages and many people and many races and faces. So you'll see that image all throughout the neighborhood in the days to come. One of the great legacies of the Cleveland Cultural Gardens happened after the Second World War. You know it. Beyond their natural physical beauty, the gardens became a symbol of peace. Dagmar and Natalie, I was talking to you earlier tonight, the Peace Gardens is a heck of a good idea. And we've been doing it. One World Day celebration was created in 1946 to celebrate peace through mutual understanding. Our One World Day even went international, recognized with the United Nations resolution in 1947. This was the generation before us advocating for a day that would celebrate Cleveland in peace and brotherhood and sisterhood. The UN picked up on it in 1947 and honored us with a resolution. This year, also in our centennial, we celebrate the 70th anniversary of that One World Day. So as you remember our 100th, remember the 70th of One World Day. We will in August. When you think about what happens locally on our One World Day, could anything possibly be needed more now than this? A celebration of each other through song, customs, parade, a path of peace where we leave hate behind. Some of you have read the book. We leave hate behind. Culminating often in naturalization services that we celebrate in support of each other. A message of welcome, a message of peace. Unquestionably, the Cleveland Cultural Gardens demonstrate perseverance. Their names are reflected in the 29 dedicated gardens. Eric, I told you I'm going to do this. I want you to raise your hand if you affiliate, and whether it's in your ethnicity or you affiliate with it, let's talk about it. Let's talk about all the gardens that have been dedicated. Anybody affiliated with the African American Garden? Please, thank you for your work. Albanian Garden. There she is. There they are. I knew it, Donna. American Garden. Right here. All right. American Legion. Armenian. Azerbaijanian. British. Chinese. Croatian. Czech. Estonian. Hey. Finnish. German. Greek. Hebrew. Hungarian. Indian. Irish. Italian. Latvian. Lithuanian. Polish. Romanian. Russian. Serbian. Slovak. Slovenian. Syrian. Ukrainian. Those are the gardens that have been dedicated. Give yourself that have been dedicated a round of applause. It's a message of perseverance. And now for those who have plans and have a dedicated garden site and a capital campaign underway. Raise your hand if you affiliate with them. Russian garden, hoping to break ground this May. Scottish. Korean. Ethiopian. Vietnamese. Lebanese. Native American. Turkish. Perseverance. And finally, those inquiring. Raise your hand if you're simply inquiring. Austria. France. Spain. Mexico. Burkina Faso. Netherlands. The Hispanic community. Liberia. Okay. Shout it out if I missed dedicated, in the works, or inquiring. Okay, we're okay. All right. To all of you. As the mayor knows, and a lot of you know, tonight in New York City are the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions. It's my opinion that when the inductees come to Cleveland to be officially installed at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we ought to call out and say there's a few more rock stars right here and right in the cultural gardens, right? Rock stars, you all rock. You're a room brimming with perseverance. Because of you, gardens are being planned and dedicated at an unprecedented rate and maintained by you. You can't build it and then not maintain it. It's tireless work, a band of tireless volunteers you are. Our community owes you all a debt of gratitude. Welcoming, peace, perseverance. A fourth word that comes to my mind when thinking of the garden is journey. From the African American garden being shaped, which chronicles a journey overseas against one's will, to the journey of fugitive slaves, a story to which this very area of the city played a significant role in the history of the Underground Railroad, to the story of freedom on the road to a city called Hope. In a later generation, the Great Migration North. I saw Dan Bickerstaff, the architect, here tonight, and all the team with the African American Cultural Garden. This garden undoubtedly is an image of the journey. Congratulations. Every garden tells a story of a journey. I single that out because it's in the build as we speak, and it's a beautiful thing up the hill on the west side of Rockefeller Park. I remember we're all a journey. We all can tell a story of family immigrants. I remember my father-in-law, Ghassan, telling me a story of migration from Lebanon. He arrived from Beirut at the invitation of his Presbyterian uncle. He didn't know what a phone booth was. He didn't have them in Beirut in the hills in his village at the time. He showed up on American soil, really no idea what to do. He was trying to get to Villisca, Iowa, and ultimately back to Cleveland. He was scared. He was in his early 20s. He never set foot. An elder African-American gentleman showed him, this young Lebanese immigrant, the way, quite literally, to the booth, showed him how to make a call, gave him the money to make the call, and he said, I'll never forget, it was my very first experience in America. A stranger befriended him. As did the man on the New York docks who gave my Italian stepfather a stick of chewing gum. Natalie and I saw him tonight. He's babysitting our kids tonight. He caught us in the kitchen. That's why we were a little late for the cocktail hour, because he continued to tell the story. I said, Lenny, I'm going to talk about you tonight. But he said, let me tell you a few more stories. They arrived from Italy 2 weeks over the Atlantic on choppy waves, really in the bowels of a boat. A 7-year-old kid. And I was thinking about his experience as I was putting on this suit, and my daughter, my 7-year-old kid, said, Daddy, you look like a ship's captain. And I went downstairs. She said, where's your hat? And I said, she did. But I went downstairs and let's go talk to Grandpa. Grandpa told the story of when he was 7 years old. Imagine that dichotomy. Life's good here. You're coming over, though, as a 7-year-old, scared, not knowing where you're going to go. I could go on about him. He lived at Lakeview Terrace as mayor. He lived right at the top of 25th. He said that was a wonderful experience. He lived in Cleveland Metropolitan Housing Association housing as we know it today, but it was a welcoming community to him. Ultimately, he lived in the city of Lorraine with his father. These are the stories of my parents, my stepdad, and my father-in-law. That was their journey. We all, I suspect you all, have a story of a journey with your family that ends up, perhaps right here, back in the Midwest, with some friendly person who helped get your family here. That's who we are. Welcoming, peace, perseverance, journey. And finally, celebration. Through sheer passion, vision, volunteerism, and stewardship, the CCGF has persevered. On the occasion of this centennial, it's indeed a celebration in many forms. Not just a gala celebration, loving this party, but full circle to why we are here. The gardens themselves represent a celebration of culture and the diversity of our city. The monuments of the gardens celebrate the people of Cleveland, our dynamism, diversity, and our differences. In our rich cultural distinction, we celebrate, though, our togetherness. Last Thursday was Cesar Chavez's day, marking the day of his birth, March 31st, 1927. When I thought about Cesar Chavez on Chavez Day, we thought about all the great things he'd done, but a quote came to me that I thought relevant to tonight. He said, preservation of one's own culture does not require contempt or disrespect for other cultures. I think Chavez would be pleased with you. With the manifestation of the principle here in the gardens, we celebrate each other's garden dedication as we celebrate our own garden dedication in our own community. We come together, and we come together to celebrate our differences. We become a city ahead of the curve. We leave the political rhetoric in the dust. We relegate it to noise. Perhaps those who disparage difference will come see our city, illuminated in the Centennial Gardens, and see a city that embraces its differences and celebrates them. This week marked the 48th year since the death of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It was King who said, "We must learn to live together as brothers, or we will perish as fools." King visited Rockefeller Park in the 1960s. He gave a speech along the road that ran through it, the one that would ultimately bear his name. Dr. King would be pleased with the peace and shared understanding that you've created in the cultural gardens on the road that bears his name. With the Second City Renaissance now in swing from Public Square to Rockefeller Park and all throughout our city, in a city where the progressive City Beautiful movement sings again 100 years hence, let us turn the page to the next century and ask the question, what will our next 100 years look like in the cultural gardens? My personal hope for this area, from Wade Park to Gordon Park, is that Cleveland Cultural Gardens will be known as Cleveland's cultural corridor, and a place that is known for who we are as a people. At the core, the gardens represent who we are as American people, a melting pot of people from all corners of the world. On a global scale, I hope we teach the world something, as we did with the United Nations recognition of our One World Day celebration 70 years ago. My hope will be that the words welcome, peace, perseverance, journey, and celebration continue to resonate. My hope is that together we educate future generations on the value of this most important Cleveland gem. My hope is that together we will continue to connect as brothers and sisters in a garden of peace, in a cultural corridor of one. Tonight, let us celebrate our successes of 100 years together. Tomorrow, let us set out to educate generations of Clevelanders ahead about the power of a great civic idea, born in the Cleveland Cultural Gardens. What is the city but its people? The people of this great city of Cleveland, Ohio are here. Those who welcome others, who promote peace, who persevere against all obstacles, who respect the journey, and who celebrate one another. Celebrate a neighbor and congratulate them on 100 years of building a community. On to our next century together. Thank you, and congratulations.